welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I am your host for this lovely evening as we walk into episode number 347. Tally, get your goddamn Timo out of my screen.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter, everybody.
I like that we're walking into it. I don't actually think that this is a prepped episode. We're walking straight into this and seeing what happens because there's probably just gonna be a spear just jabbed through us in terms of information.
I don't even know what information we're gonna have. Let's hope we can make an hour.
Yes, exactly. Walking into it.
Tally's here.
Hey.
Cereal's here.
Yep.
Punch is here.
Hey, everybody.
And Chira is gone for this week, unfortunately. I think he would have liked to scream about dynamic and solo queue, as that is our discussion topics for this evening. So we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that. Earlier on Twitter,
Sure doesn't scream. Sure takes like prolonged sighs and then kind of rants a little bit.
All right, so here's
the long side's important.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's like, all right, here's the thing. Let me just say. First, I want to say that thank you for everybody who came out on March 26th to support us on the Intra Podcast or Inter Podcast tournament, Intra Network tournament that we did, and we went on for about 12 hours. The tournament only lasted for all of 6, but we streamed for a total of 12. With your help, and thanks to you guys, we raised $1,213 that evening. So all that money gets to go toward our booth over at PAX East. So if you're headed out to Boston, come check us out at the booth. You'll get lots of swag. So that, guys, thank you so much for supporting us that evening. It was something else.
I don't want to
It was
thank
a very
them.
fun event.
I want to thank them not at all. Like, I would prefer that my liver was slightly better off than it went in, and that's not how that worked. I had a nice 7 Smirnoff Ices, which also contributed to me not being on the 3v3 support game because I had to go buy more of them.
Is that where you were at?
Yeah, that's where I was gone. Like, I literally left to go buy more Smirnoff Ice because I was talking to George and he said I had a bunch queued up, so I had to go buy more.
So what you're saying is you weren't prepared.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Were
It
you?
surprised me. You guys surprised me.
Told
with
you
that.
need
That
more
was-
ice.
Because there was that one point where you had only drank like 2. We raised $30, right? And I went into the stream chat and I was like, "You guys, $15. He'll drink the whole 6-pack. Just keep going. Every $15 that comes in, he'll drink one from the 6-pack." And it went live on stream in the middle of whatever game was being played, and you guys got to watch him pound some Smirnoff Ice that night.
It was really fortunate that the game we played, the first one I had to do, I was playing jungle, and I was walking to Red Buff when I get a Skype call that's telling me I have to drink a Smirnoff Ice right now. So it's good that I wasn't in lane or anywhere like fighting a camp at like level 1. So I had to do that and then continue the game. But
If you guys missed out, what happened is that we had donation tiers set up. Like $5, build an item, or it was more like people were donating $10. $10, build an item, $20, both teams do it. It kind of went down to be like $10, both teams did it. We were accepting pretty much whatever came in. All the way up to like $100 where you could just pretty much decide the whole game that you wanted. And for $15, Cereal had to drink a Smirnoff Ice. So that's what this is. If you guys want to check out these games, they will be on youtube.com/TForce Podcast by the end of the week. There's a lot of them for me to sift through and turn into videos, but I'm going to get them all up there so you guys could watch them. And congratulations to Hearth of the Cards for winning our first, I'm going to call it the Fuck You Over tournament or the shit show tournament. Like, it wasn't a real tournament, but it was a lot of fun, and they still won the, tournament. So
Chris DDoSed me. Bunch of cheaters.
I like to say the one thing that they didn't allow that I saw was somebody donated and tried to say no, both teams aren't allowed to hit turrets or something, and they're like, no, we can't let that happen for an entire game, or this will take like hours to finish.
Yeah, we
I
we
love
kinda
everyone that
broke those
donated,
rules.
but if you're gonna make an incentive, make the game more interesting, as opposed to, just everyone standing around the tower and
We
watching
couldn't
the
do
creeps kill it.
wards. Like that was great.
That was fun.
That was
That was
beautiful.
funny, at least. It must have been funny to watch.
No wards is cool.
And then someone
Yeah,
paid an
it's
extra,
easy to
what?
game. Super
Yeah.
easy to game with in that scenario.
Then someone paid an extra $25 to make Timo not be able to use his ult at all game.
I guess technically they only made it for like 10 minutes, and then we just told them all game because we weren't told otherwise. But whatever. But it was funny.
No
'cause
awards, so it was worth.
the donations that came in, like people thought they were fucking over the teams, but because the builds were so sporadic and weird, you were actually helping the enemy teams by building ohm wreckers, for example, because no one did damage. So not having the turret hit you and allowing them to get a little extra damage in was awesome. So the ohm wreckers helped. ZZ Rots obviously helped a ton when not doing any damage. And like in our game, they allowed everyone to build a hurricane. And Hearth of the Cards, they have Valm and Alex and one of Alex's friends on there who are high level players too. So they strategize right there at the moment. They're like, we need to pick champions that can work with these hurricanes. And the Hurricanes helped them out quite a bit for pushing, even though they weren't doing any damage. So
The Devourer. He didn't have to sell it and rebuy. Like Mitch jungle item.
I had to. It was like I was really excited because I was playing Zac. You don't have to build Hurricane because you can't buy that on Melee Champions. Ironically, half of this podcast didn't know that going into the game, which I think is hilarious.
Well, it didn't used to be that way, but yeah.
But so then Mott donates like maybe 10 minutes in when I've gotten a bunch of kills and I'm already about to buy my Cinder Hulk. He says, Serial has to sell his jungle item. I'm like, that's the only thing that can possibly do anything for me is Cinder Hulk for a while. And then 20 minutes later, he says Serial can rebuy his jungle item with another donation. So thanks, Mott. And he iced me first, too. So he really went YOLO on trying to get me out of the game.
Scumbag.
Yeah. Oh, and then somebody made us finish our drinks, whatever they were.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
5
that was the
minutes after
donation
That
that was the donation that screwed me over. Everything else was fine in my book.
Well,
I
that's
just
where
poured
the
a new
game grew
glass
up
of
a bunch.
wine, and then we got the finisher drink donation. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I went
think
straight from tipsy to hungover right after that. No drunk, just straight to hungover. I had a headache for the rest of the night. I'm like, God damn it.
I think something that you guys might want to watch for if you go watch these videos is Kargan, I think, and sometimes George would have to jump into the Discord channel with the teams and let them know about donations because otherwise how would we find out? Because of spectator delay, of course. And so everyone's reacting every single time that these donations come through, and the groans that come out is probably at least half the fun for the viewers.
Yeah, we had a good. I think we peaked at like 80 something viewers for the night, so it was good. It was great overall. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. Anybody who watches it on YouTube after the fact, there's a lot of you that can go check that out too. I hope you really enjoyed that. All the money again goes straight to PAX. We're going to PAX East. We're gonna have tons of pictures, tons of interviews, and there's other pieces of PAX East that are going to be coming up that we're gonna be able to talk about. Hopefully early next week. That's what I'm shooting for because I have my final meeting. Cross your fingers on Wednesday. And we'll be out there. So if you're coming to PAX East, let us know an email that you're going to be there because you can come up to the booth. And even if you come to the booth, you get Champions Select podcasts for free just for coming to the booth, which is going to be really cool. That's it. That pretty much wraps up our donation tournament that we had going. So now we're moving into April where we're really gung ho for PAX. Just one last announcement, and I'm going to remind you guys of this every single podcast up until PAX. The week of PAX, we're only doing one show. You will only have one show that'll be recorded on Monday and released on that Wednesday because we're not going to be recording that Wednesday night because a lot of us will be prepping to go out to Boston that evening, and I don't want to, push us all down or hold us all down with the responsibility of podcasting because we will be producing live content when we're there, so you'll have the extra podcast. They just won't be at the normal schedule for that week, and that's the third week of April, the 22nd.
Oh, and I guess one small announcement. Jin podcast should be out. Jin Champion Select should be out end of this week or so.
Yep.
A real fun episode. Days is back. I know she really enjoyed being back on for the episode, and it was a guy I met at PAX South. Gritty, a lot of fun, great knowledge to talk about Jin, and kind of an interesting episode since it's a polarizing AD carry.
Yeah, you can get that next month if you didn't pay for it this month because Patreon is at the end of the month now. Patreon.com/TForce Network. You have like 2 days, maybe a day by the time this podcast comes out to get your final donation in. So guys, thank you for that final push into PAX, and we'll have tons of information for you. Hopefully you find that your investment is worth it as we try to turn it back around and give you guys more content for your money. So let's walk into our serious discussion, as serious as we can make it this evening, and that's dynamic queue versus solo queue. Also, new champion select. And the reason I list these three independently is because I did a poll on Twitter today in the T-Force Network Twitter, and I asked people, what do you think at your current rank, whatever that is, what is your thoughts on dynamic queue? And I specifically worded it that way because I was curious how people would respond. Because before I put this poll out there, I was curious if people were confusing dynamic queue, solo queue, and new champion select. Because they're three different things, right? New champion select is the one where you get to choose your role, and you get to go in there, after the fact. And when you get in the champion select, that's also different with the three bands. Dynamic queue is where you get to queue up with multiple people while using the new champion select. So there's a distinction to be made there, and something to keep in mind. So when I ask about dynamic queue, I'm specifically asking about being able to queue with more than two people while you're in the game. And I think it's confusing, but once you get a grasp of it, it might make it easier. It might make there's a lot of people that were kind of bandwagoning on Reddit not a week ago with all the pros saying that, dynamic queue isn't this. And people were posting, a video went out today about TSM trolling dynamic queue with it, or solo queue, by doing 5-man pre-mades. But they went up against another 5-man pre-made when they did it. So the system is more than less working. But I'm going to... Tally, I think you have the soapbox. You're pretty much ready to stand on it. I'd like for you to lead us into this conversation about dynamic and solo queue, and we'll expand from there because I have some listener stuff to talk about as well.
Well, I think a large part of what you're saying is, a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon with the pros saying, solo queue would be so much better than dynamic queue, and dynamic queue is really bad at high elo. And there may be some merit to a little bit of this, but a lot of the complaints, I think, like you said, are mostly from champion select, and especially with regards to queue times. Like, it's got to be a lot harder for the system to find, instead of just 10 people around the same elo. Now they have to find 10 people around the same elo that have 2 of each role, and so on and so forth. Whereas before, they could just throw 5 people on each team that are around the same elo. So a lot of people are saying dynamic queue is causing longer queue times, but that's really probably mostly created from the new champion select. Where even if Riot said even if they were to re-release solo queue, they would use the new champion select. So the longer queue times wouldn't be, resolved from that. The other complaint people try to bandwagon on is it's easier to be carried and stuff like that, or easier to be boosted. But that's not really gonna change. Like, if you're gonna pay the money and get boosted, that's gonna happen either way. Like, I don't know. And there seems to be a whole lot of I won't know if I'm good versus the person that also got to Plat 1. And that's what pisses me off the most. And I can probably tilt about this for hours, because what it comes down to is you may be, slightly better mechanical player than someone else that hit Diamond 5 or hit the Diamond, tier mark that a lot of people try to shoot for, or Plat or Gold, whatever it is, via queuing by yourself. And someone might have, done it via queuing with 3-4 people most of the time. But that doesn't mean you're a better player. That means that, when you're solo, you're probably going against other solos, duos, or mixed in with a 4-man. And if you're a 3-man, you're 99% of the time you're going up against another 3-man or a 4-man. It matches it up that way. It doesn't do the MMR imbalance anymore. It does that instead. And if you're better, we're working with teammates, that shows a different skill set, not a better skill set or a worse skill set, or, oh my God, I'm so much of a better player than you. This is a team game. It's not ever isolated from that aspect of it. It's always going to be a team game. There is no magma chamber of ranked.
Punch, you look like if you just want to jump right in.
I want to make comments at the end of Brent, all of Brent's comments.
All of Brent's comments? Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't really prepared for this. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. So what are the other things that people, have been chiming in about dynamic?
Yeah, so what was the majority of all of their issues? I didn't actually read the Reddit thread because Reddit drama doesn't interest me at all. I just skip over it. So was most of their complaints all about champion select and not actually dynamic queue?
I felt like it was kind of mishmash. They're talking about queue times, and a lot of them aren't realizing that the queue times are, although it might have to be slightly increased if you were to do solo queue versus dynamic queue, because, you have to try to match 4 versus 4 versus just throwing everyone in. More people are playing now than were in solo queue. Therefore, that kind of almost negates that having to match 4 versus 4 and 5 versus 5. The only thing that's going to make it significantly longer at this point is the champion select, which you have to be slotted into one of your primary or secondary roles. Whereas the other complaints were at high-lows, it's hard to tell who the better players are. And I used to feel like I could climb easier. Now I can't climb as easily as I could before. But I think the reason why it's not as easy to climb for some people is because if you're a jungler or a support main, and now you're going against other support mains, you're not going against the person that was forced into it that never does it. Like it's going to be better in some ways in that everyone's going to be getting along and a little bit less toxic, and but you're going to be going up against another jungle main. Like, you're not going to get someone that had the last pick jungle that doesn't know how to play it and is playing something super safe, and then you invade him and get a double kill, and you snowball the games from out of there, and you're like wondering why it's harder to climb. Well, you're always going against another jungle main. You're always going against another support main, or at least they're very, very comfortable on it enough to select it as a second role, in theory. So that I've had some toxic games when I've queued up solo. I've had some really competitive games though, and I don't think I've had any real super mismatched games. They've mostly been real competitive on my Smurf in the gold elo, and then my main account, which is still a plat 1, bouncing up and down. I haven't got a diamond just yet, but I mean, most of the people in my games have diamond and master borders, if some plats. I mean, I think the only thing is the very top 1% of the 1%. I hate to sound like a Bernie Sanders fan right now here, but I think that's the only area that has like room for complaint, is that it's harder to maybe pick up talent and know who's doing that and that. I've heard all that argument, and it's really, really hard to find like matches at that elo, and it's taking a real long time. But once again, I think that's something that Riot says they're going to iron out and they're looking into, and that's also another fact of champion select, not dynamic.
Okay, so you're also getting I have small point, and I know you've got a ton of them. So you're trading off variance. Like, there's less variance now in terms of like how unskilled a person might be on a role. I think it's probably better queue times for everyone but those people you're talking about, because you're not going to hear them talk about that. No, I don't. I feel like the people who are going to get upvoted are going to be the people who are saying all these nasty things like, "Oh, new champion sucks for these reasons. This streamer said it too." And people who say it's good, like, "Oh, I've had no queue times when I'm playing support," either aren't going to post about it because they say, "Oh, it's working for me. Why am I going to post?" Or are downvoted because it might be an unpopular opinion amongst the people who are going to actually talk about it. So
it's the Reddit sub-community circle jerk, and I've even said that, and I've gotten downvoted to hell, and it's like, why are you calling
I'm
it a circle
downvoting you
jerk?
right now. Downvote you right now on the podcast.
It's like, why are you calling it a circle jerk? Why don't you make your opinion stated? And I link the 4 other posts I have where I've had well thought out opinions about how dynamic queue has made me personally want to play more. I think Riot's posted statistics and polls that say that rank's being played a shitload more now than it ever has been. And even polls that say more people prefer dynamic queue, even if solo queue were to come out. But if you do the same type of comments on Reddit, you instantly get downvoted to hell. And I got told that wasn't a circle jerk. But that is exactly the definition of a circle jerk. It's an echo chamber where you downvote and you mute any opinion other than the one that you want to hear. That is the definition of an echo chamber or a circle jerk.
Well, I like that they're trying something new, and I have heard mostly positive things. The one thing that people occasionally say is like, "Oh, whenever I get a champ select, there's somebody asking if they can switch roles." It's like, all right, well, yeah, and I've seen that like twice.
Yeah, I've hardly ever seen that, and that's probably the main point I wanted to bring up here, is that a lot of you, the majority of the players of this game are not affected by dynamic queue in and of itself, right? Because there was a I should have brought up the numbers. I apologize, but it was something like 98.3% or 97% of 3-mans or higher that queue up get put against the same number of pre-made people. Mm-hmm. It was a really, really high number. It was in the 90s, and then
5%, and then 5-mans were even more so put up against 5-mans like 99% of the time.
Exactly. Like, yeah, if you're queuing up, the majority of the time you're going to, and you're always going to have those like 1-off or 2-off games when you're playing, like 100 games in a row. There's bound to be at least 2 of those games where something really fucking stupid happens, but you'll never know that you're playing against a 5-man, because even when you were playing solo queue or duo queue before and got super stopped by 20 minutes, it wasn't because those 2 people. It wasn't necessarily because those two people were carrying the game. Is because your team just got outmatched and outplayed. And that happens. That doesn't mean that your skill is devalued because of that reason. We even see pros, Immortals, won like a 20-minute game when their first couple weeks of the LCS. That doesn't mean that they are like light years better than all the other players they're playing. They just happen to execute the strategy for that specific game better than their opponents. And that can happen even in solo queue.
Okay, so on the topic of champion select, I think the only legitimate issue I see with that is the lack of people playing support. And that does affect queue times. Mm-hmm. That also affects people that are their queue choices, because if they're selecting support as their second role, they get that more often than not. And if they get that over and over again, then they end up taking support off of it, which feeds into this loop of support having a long queue time. I think one thing they could do to address that is take the WoW approach, which is, hey, tanks and healers, nobody wants to play them, so we're giving them a bonus. So there's more incentives for people to play those roles. I think it'd do something similar with support. They just added hex tech crafting stuff. Offer hex tech mats for people that queue up with support, or whatever the it doesn't have to be support. It just like whatever it is at the time, whatever role at the time. They're not seeing a lot of people.
And you can get one playing. Of those like for playing or whatever. You can. Yeah. You can just get like one, right? Like you get one every 3 days, like they're doing now. That way, but the number of people that would queue up to get that one key. Because you also run the risk of the people that might queue up to get that key and they don't really play support by offering that, but you run that risk with everything. Even in World of Warcraft, people might queue up as healer and they might have subpar healing gear. But that's where the MMR system comes into play, right? And if you're not winning as support, you are not getting your key. So then you need to get better at that role in order to use it. I mean, there's the give and take.
Well, aren't the bonuses you're talking about in WoW, that's like for raids, correct?
No,
would you get more stuff? Is
that Dungeon Finder or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But it's still, you have to be successful while in that.
Correct.
So
you have to complete the dungeon.
If you just go with like a higher percentage chance of getting that Hextech stuff, you eliminate like somebody queuing up once to pull it off. Like if you just increase the chances, it's not bad. But yeah, I've seen like, I think I was queuing support in top, like support main, the last like 10 games. And I think I've gotten top once, and I'm fine with that. Obviously the support man, that's totally fine, but it's also not surprising given what everyone's talking about here and what kind of is obvious just in terms of who plays this game. And what
I like that there are more people playing ranked right now, and I'm sure Riot loves that too, because more people are playing the game, more people are trying to play competitively, right? But Megan, she wrote in, I asked for feedback on Twitter, and she actually wrote us an email. And part of it was that she says she's able to queue with more of her friends now and play the game competitively with the friends and potentially teach her friends how to play more competitively while going into solo queue. Of course, you're playing against other teammates, but it's also taking that stress off of solo queue, because she knows she's going to get one of her 2 roles that she has. Dom has said the same thing to me. Like he has hardly ever played ranked. He played threes, like 3v3 teams or 5v5 teams, because he knew he could get his rank in. Then he doesn't play anything outside of support, or if he plays mid, he'll just play something very safe like Morgana or potentially a Lux. And that's the same thing for me. Being able to queue into solo queue and knowing I'm going to get one of my 2 roles has taken all of the anxiety, all of the stress, every piece that I hated about solo queue away from the game.
Yeah, I think that's a huge upgrade. I think the champion select is definitely an improvement, and I don't think that's going away.
No.
See, I actually have a different perspective, because I used to, and I climbed with just jungle, and if I played any other role, I played something safe, and I just contributed really, really in team fights, farmed safely, and I very rarely outplayed people in lane, because I was much, much better in the jungle, and if I didn't get jungle, I'd usually ask for support. If I do jungle primary and support secondary, I'm getting jungle. I'm getting support like 80% of the time, 75% of the time.
Support though.
So I think my main issue isn't with dynamic queue. My main issue is with the champion select and the weighting that is done between primary and secondary. I shouldn't get a queue pop within the first 15 seconds for my queue up for my secondary role. It kind of they don't
is it
weight it
weighted?
at all. It should be, shouldn't it? Because they
It should
use
be.
the
It doesn't
term
seem like it is,
primary
though,
and
yeah.
secondary. That's the definition of primary and secondary. Primary is your most preferred, and secondary is your
I guess it has to
You
be
know.
if you have fill as a secondary option. If fill's not just a primary option, it's a secondary option. It has to be weighted at least a little bit because otherwise, what's the point?
But
You
we've
couldn't-
had people, and I think Riot said that they've tried to fix this and they have fixed this. But we've had screenshots of people say that they picked jungle and mid as their two in that order, and someone picked mid and jungle. And when they asked to switch, and they're like, "Oh yeah, my main was this, my primary was this." Wait, why did it queue us to
Right.
that? The jungle primary got put on mid, and the
probably
mid primary got
slotted
put on
them.
jungle.
It probably slots them because it like kind of like how
Pre-slots
Team
it
Builder
before it
Well,
reorganizes
I would
it?
assume like with the way Team Builder kind of worked, like they had that already set up as a program, and I would assume that they probably started slotting, but not letting you know, like
Well,
that you were probably slotted to a team until you had a full
pragmatically,
10.
I don't think it's worth our time to sit here and dissect it. Like, this could be like this really long Reddit thread, right? Because pragmatically, there could be a little piece of the code that's fucked up. That's like adding the 1 and 1 to be 4 instead of 1 and 1 be 2, right? Like, that happens. That's why you see
It just
bugs on
seemed-
websites, right? And maybe it's going and it throws you into a box and it starts pulling people out one by one. You know, think about if you're pulling numbers out of a hat and you're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every 2 you get, you're going to throw to the side until you find that 3. And that 3 could be your second roll, even if it's your main roll. We don't know how it works, but you see my point, right? Like, it could pull until it finds those people, and then it just automatically slots you and throws you in until it feels like a team up.
Yeah, that reported bug just adds to the whole what's the word? The conspiracy that it's not weighting the two as it should be. At least it feels like it should be. It kind of adds to that conspiracy. I don't know that it's not actually
we don't.
weighting.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know, but let's just plan another trip to Riot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And just ask them. I want to sit down and
go.
talk.
Let's
I want
say-
to sit down.
I want to see this out. I want to.
I want to
this
see the
algorithm.
computers that make this happen,
I want to see the SQL code.
and then you tell me what they're doing.
You just want to see the select statements?
Yeah, no, I would probably just jizz all over that. That would be my orgasm.
You break
Okay,
the
so
whole
the
thing.
topic of
I'm a
queue
programmer,
times-
by the way, so this would make
Oh, yeah,
my
me
night.
too.
Yeah.
I like to
Yeah.
see that stuff too.
Wow. So I'm
So
gonna
on
be
queue
outlier here.
times, in particular to not champion select by dynamic and solo queue, I do have a concern if they were to bring both queues into existence. There is a lot of talk about people wanting to play solo queue, and
please don't.
they want to bring that in. I think if they did bring in a solo queue, and I'm playing by myself on a Saturday afternoon, I'm queuing up, and I have a choice between dynamic and solo. I'm probably going to pick solo. I think a lot of other people would too. I think that creates a problem because now you have to look at those groups of 4 on dynamic queue. And if you've got groups of 4 in dynamic queue, they need that one person, and all those single people are in solo queue. That's going to create some long queue times. I think Smite had this problem, and the way that they dealt with this is they disabled 4-man queues. You can only queue up as a group of 2, 3, or 5 in order to avoid the group of 4 that's looking for the single person that doesn't exist. So if Riot's going to bring in solo queue, I think that's something they're thinking about because solo queue still isn't definite or not. I think that might be something they have to look at is, all right, well, how are we going to deal with these lack of single players in dynamic queue?
I don't think they can live side by side in a happy, healthy world. I think it's impossible for solo queue and dynamic queue to live side by side. Like, I would love it for these arguments and for everybody's sake. There's got to be a PR reason why Riot hasn't started releasing numbers on these, right? And said, our statistics say that every solo queue player 99% of the time gets this and this and this, or 75% of the time you're in this type of queue, 25% of the time you're in this, and 5% of the time you're tossed in with that 4-man or whatever.
It is still a little early. I mean, they might want to accumulate more data before they want to release that stuff.
Sure,
But
it's been 4 months, I think.
4 months versus 5
4
years.
years, 5
Right.
years.
Yeah.
5 years, yeah. So you might as well like take some time with it. And I know they don't seem very hasty with a lot of their stuff, which is good, unless it's
Patch notes or
crazy
bug fixes.
bug fixes. Yeah. So
I agree with the sentiment that solo queue, if it were to come out, cannot coexist in its current form with dynamic queue. like you said, all the solos are going to be going to probably solo queue, or even if 50% of them do, that's going to kill 4-man queues.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Solo queue, it like a generic solo queue is 1 and 2 people, right? Then you
It's
have
not going to
dynamic
be
queue.
It would only be single.
It would only be single.
They said if they were to re-release solo queue, it would be 100% solo only.
Which I would think that the majority of players would tend toward, even though Brian did release a stat a while ago.
Yourself, yeah.
If you're playing by yourself, it just makes perfect sense to queue up for that instead of dynamic.
Right. But they did. I don't remember the stat again. I should have looked this shit up. I'm fucking
There'd be a
terrible
great,
host.
you know, the stat that would actually make this discussion, I don't want to say moot, but at least easy to resolve, is if they could take. I know you said more people are playing ranked. Cool, that's a great stat in a vacuum. But if you said the people, like, if you could somehow get a stat on how much more people who didn't play ranked are now. Sorry, that's bad phrasing of it, but
I know what you're
people who
saying.
didn't used to play ranked, how much are they playing ranked now? And see that kind of discrepancy versus people who already played ranked. We don't give a shit about them. They already were doing it. Like, we know that they're going to do it either way. But the people who didn't before, like, that could be a crazy number that might tell us exactly how effective it's been.
Versus how many people stopped playing, because there's a lot of weekend Reddit warriors that say that they've protested dynamic queue till solo queue comes out, and they're not going to play anymore, and they're going to quit League of Legends and go play Dota or something if solo queue isn't released. I mean,
I'm excited to see Tallahassee have a fight against all of Reddit soon. Like, I'm sure
that's pretty. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but see that.
Are we going to have to enforce the rule, the ponophobia rule, where you can't visit Reddit?
At PAX, you're not allowed to visit Reddit. They'll kill you.
I'm probably gonna get death threats in my inbox now from.
But
this
the thing
episode.
is, like, with the solo queue, Riot already said when they released dynamic queue, you can go find this post, you can Google it. They already said that that players are playing with more duo queues than they realize they're playing with. There was the number of duo queues in there was, I'm going to use 60%, right? The number of times you got a duo queue in your game, and it would be on both teams, was 60% of the time. It was higher than the times that you got just 5 straight solo queue people. And that's over a large number of games. Now, if you're only playing 100 solo queue games a year, you can't really bitch about solo queue. This is to cater to the people that are playing 300-400 solo queue games in a year. And there's people out there in this 4 months the rank's been out. They've already played fucking 700, 800 games, and that's not even like the top 1% of people. There's people in Gold 1 right now that have played 800 games, and those people, you know,
just play a lot.
Just play a lot. And so if you played 800 games and you went from Silver 1 to Gold 1, right? Like, in my opinion, that's a fuck ton of games to get that high. Like, that's just an absorbent amount of games. And you still have something to learn. So getting boosted up to Diamond 5 by your buddy who's playing is just going to mean that you're going to hurt yourself by getting boosted that high, because you're going to have to try to keep that diamond rank, and the likelihood of you being able to keep that after you've been boosted is a lot lower than you've been able to keep it, unless you somehow convince your buddy every month to play that one game and somehow win it for you, right? Because when you make it past gold, you start deteriorating. So if you get boosted to any point, you have to play to stay there. So the number of people that are going to play to stay there, unless their buddies are boosting them, I'm going to assume is a lot lower than the people who make it there on their own and can stay there based on their own skill.
And even then, you're gonna have to hold your weight in those games. I mean, we played games where we're queuing up with like 3 people, and we grabbed 2 more, and the game suddenly became like twice as hard.
Yeah,
because if you get up to the point where you could do that anyway, get quote unquote boosted by a friend. I mean, that hasn't changed. But if you're talking about, it's easier to boost because you can do it with 4 people, but you're going up against a 4-man that really, really wants to win, and probably doesn't have someone that they're boosting. You're gonna have less of a chance of winning.
I actually find that the more people you queue up with, I guess this really only factors in 4 and 5 players, the harder the game is to win, just because of now you're factoring in strategy, high-level strategy. Like, if you get a group of 5 together and you're all really good solo queue players, you're all platinum, but you don't really work together very well, you're probably going to get stomped. Because the other team does work together very well.
Are you talking about us right now? Because that sounds like us. We're like all really good individual players. We get together and it's just like bickering and arguing and screaming.
That probably describes you well, yes.
Yeah.
Unless you're that group of 4 that plays 4 or 5 games a night every single night, in which case that's exactly what they want you to be doing. They want you to be playing with friends and playing competitively. I don't we see why, like, if they reintroduce solo queue, even if they can coexist and then people just deal with longer queue times, it's going to become a pissing match. It's going to become, I earned my diamond with solo queue, you do with dynamic queue, I'm better than you. It's going to become that. People have already stated all the pros and all the high level players are going to switch to solo queue, which means everyone else is going to switch to solo queue. It's going to kill dynamic queue just from that fact alone, if not just because it's going to also lessen the achievement of someone who just likes to play with others and can play well with others.
That's probably the next big point that I have to talk about here is that for a long time, the Trinity Force podcast you're listening to, has told you need to play well with others and you need to learn to play with others, learn to get carry, learn to the metagame, and the metagame is, warding and dragons and towers and barons and da-da-da-da-da. Like, objectives, thank you. Playing with other people is going to teach you this larger objective based game, and it's only going to make you a better player playing this game as a team game rather than solo queue, because everybody can easily worry about themselves and hope the jungler helps, but in the long run, if you don't know how to play the meta game, you're not going to carry yourself very far. This is the reason a lot of you bronze guys who say you always win your lane but never win the game don't win, because you don't play the meta game. You play your solo queue. I'm teleporting. I'm getting my kills. Why are my kills not contributing to the end score? And that's because you don't understand the bigger picture. So playing with friends, playing with 2 or 3, could potentially, if assuming you have friends that can, you can work with, or someone you're learning off of. I mean, there's a lot of contingencies on this, but you're going to get better at the game by playing with more people, in my opinion. So I don't think it's a bad thing, because I routinely like to queue up with three people, because it forces the other players in the game to, I'm going to say, bend to my will, but that's not really always the truth. But I have more willpower in the game, and more I can use my knowledge of taking objectives to win the game for me.
They're more likely to listen to you, or at least work with you.
Yeah.
If you say, guys, let's go get Baron right now, they will either say, yeah, it's a good idea, or they say, well, maybe we should do this instead, as opposed to just go farm bot lane.
And then you don't have to listen to our advice from many months ago, where we said if that Draven is pushing bottom lane to go queue up, we go with him, because now you have 4 people on the same page and you can ZZ rot down that mid turret, because 4 people know how to siege.
And you can
Screw the
report
Draven,
him
don't even need him.
Report him if he does the wrong thing. Don't do that.
Well, if it's non-verbal, or the verbal communication is toxic or whatever it may be, you can report him.
So what I've learned is that I need Riot to release solo queue so I can hit Challenger.
Yeah, if you can carry yourself, have
or
fun.
challenged.
Okay.
I just don't. I would honestly feel like if they were to re-release solo queue and then if they were to switch back to even the old system, but with just new champion select and whatnot, like I feel like that having that taken away from me as like a social but hyper competitive person, I would feel just sad. I just would, because I feel like this is something I've wanted for a while. I hate like playing rank with someone and then a friend logs on and I want to play with them and I just like, oh, I have to choose now. I like it.
I think a lot of people, if they released solo queue, I think a lot of people would be disappointed because it wouldn't have the old champ select system. And like we said earlier,
why wouldn't
kind of confusing the two.
Why wouldn't it?
Because new champ is
Draft mode does. Like all draft modes.
They said that if solo queue came out, it would have the new champ select.
Yeah, figure it would.
yeah.
Well,
That's what I was saying.
some people want the old. Some people want the old.
Right.
I've met a couple high elo players that say that they would prefer to go back to solo queue and take the old champion select, where you just call your role and chat and just go by pick order. And I
don't miss it.
I don't personally. But I see why for some people's mentality is they don't really care about role and they could perform equally on all roles, and those are the type of people that I've heard it from.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, those fill players that could do every role efficiently probably had a slightly easier time than before.
I kind of wish we had Days on this podcast, but it may have turned into a yelling match because she's vehemently against dynamic queue. But I wonder if it's dynamic queue.
She's not against it. She just prefers solo queue. I don't think she's against the idea of both of them existing. But I think that's the problem is we don't know if both of them can exist.
And I feel like it gets very defensive and it gets very heated because I think anyone that's thought about it for a little bit has realized that they can't both coexist. You can't play nicely and have both of them because both of them would be worse. Or one would just beat out the other,
I think it's
and
toxic.
next season one would be
it's
gone.
It's just toxic to have both those exist, because then you're automatically creating something to pit besides rank, right? Besides I'm diamond, you're plat. You're creating I'm diamond in duo. I'm diamond in duo queue. I'm diamond in solo queue. Whatever, dynamic queue. Excuse me. You're creating another level of toxicity in your game, inadvertently, by trying to give players what they want. So, how do you combat that toxicity? It's hard. If not impossible, to combat people's need for competitiveness, because each person views how their rank is looked differently. And that's why we always tell you, don't worry so much about your rank. Set a goal, get to it, and be proud of yourself and proud of what you have achieved, because
And that's the number
at the end
one
of the day,
argument.
your skill isn't. It's just skill's a number. Unless
That's
you're a
the
pro
number-
player, your skill doesn't. Sorry, but unless you're a pro player, your rank honestly doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter if I'm platinum, or I'm diamond, or I'm.
You keep telling yourself that.
Dude, the porter.
I want to be, because it's really nice for me. It makes me go, I am a diamond level player. I'm a challenger level player. Like, that feels good to me, and that's all that matters. At the end of the day, it's good to you. But if somebody's not going to accept your advice because you're a silver level player, and you it's more of if your advice makes sense, or like, how do I phrase this? I think you guys know where I'm going with this. You could be a silver level player and dissect the game same as a diamond level player, but you have to prove that you can do
Monte
that.
Cristo does that, and he's silver, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, like
so.
Rivington, like most of the casters aren't diamond. Some of your favorite casters they listen to every single week are silver players. I mean, what is it? Rivington just had a funny video on him playing ranked, and he was shoutcasting his game while he's playing. And at the end of it, he's like, "And this is why I'm still in silver." And that's one of the best casters that NA has. And at least, I mean, he knows the game. But there's a difference, between knowing the game and just having the time to grind out to get your way out, and having the mechanical skill. Obviously, there's a large amount of that comes into play.
Yeah, I think the big thing I want to put out there: stop dismissing people on their rank. Stop saying, "Oh, you're bronze 2, you don't know anything." I mean, if you're bronze, people come into our games right here. The 4 of us have come into our games this and go, "I'm bronze. Are you sure you want to play with me?" I don't give a fuck. Just come in here and do your best. And if you want to learn, I'll try to tell you something that you might not know, or you can tell me if I fucked up. Don't feel bad. Like,
I don't think we would have come up with Battle Arena or Bronze Boot Camp if we weren't trying to help.
Yeah.
let's all defend ourselves for 30 minutes.
And I think that
Against attacks that aren't here.
Yeah.
that's the
Raise your shields
But
against nothing.
but it is everywhere. It's all over not only Reddit, it's also on like the league forums too. But I mean, it's a lot of that. After I want solo queue back comes, I don't know that my rank means as much as it did as when I compare it to my friend anymore. It's all about this me. I want to know that I'm better than you mentality. It's the same mentality you see from these flamers in your games that, call you a shitter and they think they have a right to because you did bad in lane. Like, you dying a couple times in lane does not give like a right to verbally abuse someone and wish cancer upon them. Come on, guys. It's the same type. It comes from the same place. I know it's not the same thing. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it comes from that same place that makes you think that you're better than someone else just because of a number on a screen or a death toll that's higher than yours that gives you a right to like flame them and like compare you against them. It's
Now we're getting into politics, baby.
I'm sorry, Tally, but you're not allowed
You got
to
me on the
Reddit.
you gave me the soapbox.
You can't visit Reddit anymore. We're cutting you off.
Oh, you're only a bronze level player. Fuck
I have to
off.
send you daily reminders now about not to visit Reddit.
I'm already hard enough on myself that I haven't hit diamond yet this season. I mean, I don't need others.
I had one of those fun games the other night that I was just thinking of people shit talking and just kind of that general mentality. We had a game that I thought was at least amusing because we had a Katarina that went mid, which I'm already scared of every single time because that either means we're going to win heavily or lose very quickly.
Horribly, yes.
And we started stomping pretty easily. I was bought with an Ezreal, and Ezreal said at one point, "Well, this game is boring," because we were winning by so much. And Katarina said, "Oh, you think this is boring, huh?" And then proceeds to kind of start feeding and not use her ult in fights. And suddenly, like, the game's like way swung the other direction, and keeps like taunting, is like, "Hey, you still think the game's boring? Is it interesting now?" And finally, Ezreal just says, "Sure, it's interesting." And she goes and like gets a quadra kill. And
Oh my
we're like,
God.
I don't understand what's happening here. This game is weird, and I'm concerned, but we still won off that. I was like, thank goodness. I don't want to lose a game
But that sounds like what
I
normal cat players
hate
do.
feeding the troll, but I just really wanted to win. I had to break a really big losing streak in ranked. So, but when you go from plat 5 0 LP to plat 5 0 LP after 7 losses, you're still okay.
I don't know. I don't know what else we can add to this
The
discussion.
only other
That's a
thing
weird
that
story.
I see
Random
people
now.
say, only thing I see people say about dynamic queue as a negative is that a solo queuer can be held hostage by a 4-man queue. I don't think that I've ever been in a case like that, and I don't think that you would even know. Even if people were flaming you, you wouldn't know. It doesn't tell you anywhere. Maybe now with the club tags if they're all doing it, but that just makes them even more reportable. You just screenshot it afterwards and send a ticket if it was that bad. But I mean, that's, I think that's mostly in people's head. It's not going to happen that often, and if it does, report them. People that are going to be toxic are going to be toxic regardless. Trolls are going to be trolls no matter what. Just
Well, you want to speak? You want to speak of trolls? Let's end this discussion with a listener question that came in. It's not even a troll listener question. It's the way he phrased it. So, on March 14th, we actually received an email from Asher. He said, "I've recently discovered the hyper carry of Kog'Maw Jungle, and his build usually includes, which if you didn't already know, it's Ginsu's and what's the other item? Hurricane." So that he does just fuckloads of damage. You played it the other day, Tally.
yeah, was that the guy that donated? Was it the same guy?
I don't think so.
Because someone donated and made me do it when I was solo streaming or streaming with a couple of you guys before we had started the actual tournament, and he said, "I've been doing this for ages. Like, let me donate to make you do it." And I freaking dominated, and that was the first time I'd played Kog'Maw since the rework at all. And we shit on them that game. I mean. What was his question again? I'm sorry, I don't have the
well, I have it in a document that I linked to you guys a while ago, and I didn't pin it to the channel, so that was my fault. He basically says, "I play it in solo queue. I am bronze 5. I do pretty well with it, but everyone thinks I'm a giant fucking troll because I'm not playing toward the meta. What should I do about the reactions that I get in Champion Select?"
Well, first thing is I would let your team know what you're gonna do, so that they can kind of pick around it and say, "Hey, I have a lot of
But
experience
that's
on this."
bronze 5 that he's just gonna get straight flamed for that. I'm playing Kog'Maw. That's not right. We can't play that. I'm gonna play this.
I still think it's a good idea to get in the habit of doing that if you're going to pick an off meta champion, just so it's not like you see somebody trolling, right? The troll, when you think of a troll that comes to mind is somebody that just instant locks Teemo and then doesn't say anything. You don't want to be that guy. If you got an off pick, you at least want to say, "Hey, I'm going to play this. Trust me, guys, it works." At least say something so people that aren't think you're trolling, because that's what trolls do. Is they'll pick something weird and they'll lock in. They won't say anything and they'll feed.
At the very
easy
least,
pick to build around. I shouldn't say easy, but it's you're just saying I'm getting a lot of damage, but not much utility on our jungler. If you guys could build a little bit more CC or tankiness, will be great.
exactly.
Otherwise, whatever.
Now, the
They can't
odds
do
of
that.
bronze games actually picking around you, probably not very high.
Probably
but-
not, but I mean, it's not going to be a bad habit, and it at least makes them think that you're not just being I'm not saying they think you're being an asshole, but at least it'll lower the chance of that, and that's I think the best you can do in that scenario.
And there's a lot of lower elo players that really think a team needs a tank, even though at higher elos you see lots of games where no one is a true tank. Like you might have an Elise out of the jungle and a fighter out of top lane like Fiora, and you have a squishy assassin mid, and no one ends up picking a tank, not even from support, and they end up winning, and those comps are fine. But I actually see in lower elos people try to say we need a tank a billion times when I'm on my silver or bronze level Smurf. So if you say,
How many
"Hey,
Smurfs do you have?"
I have 4 accounts. But I think that even more so, you want to at least let your team know, hey, I'm going to be playing a squishy ass jungler. If someone could go someone with tankiness or CC at a top lane or mid lane, like maybe a Lissandra or something like that, that would be great. And I think a lot of times people will be willing to work with you, especially if you could just say, hey, if you doubt it, check my match history, and hopefully by then you have a bunch of games on it so people know. I would rather play with the troll on their main one-trick pony than have them, rage and not, have them on that champion on something that they've never played before or less experienced at.
So Hawk?
Hawk?
I think I think you should play it if you're good at it and you feel that you can take care of the invades and that you feel that you can fend for yourself, because down in bronze, nobody is going to help you, or the likelihood of them helping you is a lot lower than other ranks. And it scares me that you're playing Kog'Maw that low, but I'm not going to tell you not to do it if you think you can fend for yourself, because Kog'Maw can win a lot of duels out of the jungle once he has like red buff, but he can also lose a lot of them pretty easily.
Yeah, my rant was more towards picking something off meta and being communicative about it. Kog'Maw specifically, he obviously has the same issue with most AD carries that are in the jungle, where he gets kind of low, even more so. He gets kind of low early, although if you smite the Krugs, I know how that is a little bit better.
That's how you do it.
That's how you clear it.
Always
And
start
that's how you,
Krugs as Kog'Maw.
Yeah. But you're still going to get bursted. If Lee Sin invades you and hits you with the Q, you're going to die. It doesn't matter that you had a lot of sustain in the jungle and you were able to, stay at 3/4 health. You're still going to get one shot by a Lee Sin's QE combo.
Yeah.
I would take a look at how many games you have played on Jungle Kog'Maw and what your actually win percentage is and how successful you are with that. Because, now correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm not a Jungle Kog'Maw expert, but I don't believe that's an easy choice. I don't believe Kog'Maw jungle is easy. So you're not really setting yourself up to have a smooth path to victory. So look and see how successful you are with it. And if you are having success, to continue on with it. Otherwise, you might want to consider, okay, is it really worth the difficult early jungle, the difficult having to deal with getting invaded, and tilting your teammates? Because that's a real possibility at bronze, is your teammates get tilted easily.
I think even more...
Somebody on Reddit, I know that Tally is just going to be pissed at me for even bringing up something maybe positive from Reddit. There was something that was on there today that was, I started climbing a ton when I started to play easy champions, and then moved towards, I think they said they moved towards more complicated ones once they got out of that kind of elo, and that might work.
I'm climbing in Malphite, and he's like one of the most binary top laners you could ever pick. You ult, and that's all you
getting
do.
Getting out of like bronze 5, and then using that pick that people are a little bit more malleable in their thoughts on things once you get out of like bronze, maybe into mid silver.
I think
that might like you're not going to lose your skill on that champion.
The more mechanically intensive champions they get better into silver and a little higher, because players are like, it's weird to say it, but are less predictable. But with being less predictable, they are predictable, because like the main thing, like bronze, you expect somebody to move, right? You in platinum, a lot of times I'm playing Elise, I throw my E out because I'm expecting the person to walk into the E. And bronze, they just stand there and they don't move. I watched enough bronze 5 Teemo streams to know that people just stand there and fucking auto attack and don't move.
They don't try to dodge, yeah.
Yeah, so
you have weird guilty pleasures at work.
Dude, I get really bored at work and watch a lot of that.
Is that the Teemo dies stream?
Yeah, whatever. Salty Teemo stream. Like, I've watched enough of those to know that bronze, they are so predictable that they're unpredictable. And when you get those unpredictable people, that's easier to play those mechanically intensive champions, because Yeah, go what?
Playing something unpredictable is great at lower elos, because people have no idea what the fuck to do at a Kog'Maw coming out of jungle with red buff on you, man. I would say, though, one last point of the Kog'Maw is that you're not only playing like an AD carry out of the jungle, you're playing probably the hardest to play mechanically speaking AD carry of the jungle. Just from the sheer fact that you're 100% position reliant, and if you miss position as Kog'Maw, you're fucked. You don't have a get out of jail free card like the other AD carries that do come out of the jungle do, such as Graves, such as Kindred.
Well, Punch, how hard is it when you get 2 items to move with a W up as Kog'Maw?
Yeah, it's a little challenging. Borderline impossible.
It was the first time I was doing it, and it was the first time I was even playing Kog'Maw, and I was showing it on stream and how I was doing it with the A right click with the attack move click. Smartcast did as well, and I couldn't do it. But I mean, like, how do you expect to do that with someone who has, no offense, the mechanics of around a bronze elo, and you're
Well, your team's not going to help you as much as a higher level. Like you're also relying entirely on your mechanics in that scenario. And if somebody like Nautilus ults you, your team's gonna be like, "Hey, what's that do?"
I should walk into that. Died. It's pretty.
Cog died.
Hey, I'm getting outplayed.
Asher
typed into chat, "Help! I'm getting outplayed." I need a goal.
Asher, with all this said, please don't take some. I mean, we gave you a lot of positive in the beginning. We gave you some negative here, and I'm going to end it with the positivity sandwich. If you are enjoying Kog'Maw and you're having success with
from?
it, Positively sandwich? I don't know.
It sounds like Family Guy.
No, it's a
Sounds like
fucking-
Brian
No,
from
it is.
Family
It is
Guy.
positive
It is.
sandwich. It's Stewie. He's giving Brian.
Yes.
He's giving Brian the when he's his
compliment.
employer for a bit.
Yeah.
No, this is like it's like a real management technique. It's you layer, you do two positives and a negative, and you layer it together
Me and
That's
Serial are
confusing because as a manager of this network, I've never seen that before.
because you don't use it enough.
all negative.
No, because you've
Yeah,
never done
it is all negative.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is as you are the owner, you've never given us anything positive.
Fuck you.
I would
That's
add to
it. There we go.
I would
Case in
add to
point.
that if it's working for you out of the jungle and you're able to carry from it, keep doing it. I mean,
That's right.
I would say communicate with your team. You know, you're good, and maybe not pick it 100% of the time if you're last pick and it doesn't fit with the comp. But you know, don't force it on your team. But if you want to play it and it will work in that comp, play it.
Done. Boom. We have one more question. We're not going to get to it tonight. It is from Serenity Chaos. We will get to that question on Wednesday, as we're going to need more topics stuck anyways. We'll probably answer it. If you guys have questions for us, feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com. We are going to start moving into answering more listener questions from you guys. There has been a lot of them have been going to the Four Wards podcast, which is awesome, right? Because a lot of your questions are for the guys who are teaching you at the beginning of this game. But if you have anything that's a little bit bigger, or if you have something you'd just rather have us answer than the Four Wards guys, feel free to send it over, or vice versa. We'll make sure everybody gets it taken care of and the right podcast gets it. But we do want to answer more of your listener questions. So if you just have something off the wall, email me. I had a guy email me, a listener email me the other day, and it was on Easter. He asked me, hey, can you link me to the episodes that you talk about why Frozen Mallet is bad? And I was like, well, you can just go listen to the entire backlog, because I'm pretty sure I tell you why Frozen Mallet is bad on every single episode. And then I explained it to him, and he came back.
Somehow Thaladin had all of those episodes recorded. He just had, oh yeah, he talked
Supercut?
bad about.
What?
If you make like a super cut of every time you say it's bad, that'd be incredible and a lot of time consuming.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
So what
Should
you're
do that.
saying? Poor Lancifer.
Oh, I don't think we'd ever like make him shoulder that responsibility.
I
No.
I think I want a super cut of all the ices on stream, but that's
Hey,
about it.
Probably do
If
that.
Frozen Mallet is so
for
bad,
my portfolio.
why was it built every single game during the tournament? If it was so bad,
Wasn't-
We never
didn't
even
have
had one Frozen Mallet this entire
I know.
tournament.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised.
Bizarre.
It was all ZZ Rot. I think it's because you've been riding the ZZ Rot so hard. There was ZZ Rot every game.
There was.
Wasn't there?
I'm really surprised that no Frozen Mallets were built. I think people just forgot about me. Which is fine with me. Like, whatever. Throw me to
Maybe
the
they
wayside.
finally acknowledged it sucks.
They never want to see anybody build it.
Yeah.
Well, when you come to the booth at PAX, we're just gonna start handing you stuff as though you're just some random guy who's wanted to check out this Trinity Force podcast thing. Hey
Where's
guys,
Adam?
let's talk about League of Legends. Our asshole manager's gone somewhere, but here's some. He can check out these Champion Select episodes.
Oh, my God. I should make some cards. I wonder if I could make a business card so you can just hit them out. Like, here, go to this URL.
You better have business cards.
I know, I'm going to have, like, legit business cards for all of us.
For
I'm
each of us?
talking.
Please God, we missed that so much at South. They're like, hey, do you have a business card? I'm like, yeah, no, but I'll email you the link to this video
I have
once
this-
it's put up.
I have this napkin I wrote on.
I'm going to have legit business card. I'm just waiting.
If
'cause
you-
they only
if
take
you-
me all of 2 weeks to get them.
Wait, are they going to be for
You better not
individuals?
fucking misspell my
Yes.
name on
For
it.
individuals, and there's a trash can on mine. I'm going to punch you in the dick.
Well, guys, that's it for the Trinity Force podcast for this evening. Thank you so much for listening to episode number 347. Please, everybody, tweet at Cereal Box with the Z. Tell him that the trash can is real. It's a trash can, not a trash can't.
Trash can.
Hey.
Yeah, let's bring up all the slack
Positivity.
jokes.
I know. I saw that one earlier. Made me laugh. Bot actually brought that up about. Well, what was it? You were complaining about drinking the smeared off. I don't remember the fuck the context of the conversation was. Who cares? Guys, see ya. That's it. That's episode number 347. Thank you guys for supporting us. We will see you all on Wednesday. Peace.
See you guys.